Tomorrow's test will set the course of your entire future.
Don't you ever want to do anything exciting? Like what? What if we could go anywhere we want in the whole galaxy? A real adventure. No more pretend. I found something buried in the woods. What do you think it is?
I think it's a lost Jedi temple.
Be careful where you step. We're lost. Really lost.
'Tis dangerous out there in space. Trust no one.
You're a Jedi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. Star Wars dropped a brand new skeleton crew trailer at D23. There's a bunch of footage. Jude Law is going to be the main character. Obviously, he's Force sensitive. A lot of questions as to whether or not he used to be a Jedi before Order 66, or he was something a little bit darker after that. So we'll get to that later in the trailer. But the biggest vibe you're meant to get from this is that it's meant to be very Spielbergian, as they're calling it. Like, you literally see them in the suburbs, which is a big trope of a lot of classic Spielberg films. Like, you're talking about E.T. meets The Goonies meets Stand By Me meets Stranger Things. Jude Law serving sort of like the David Harbour kind of role, like taking care of all these kids. It doesn't seem like they meet him till later in their journey, though. Sort of like the Goonies, if they found One-Eyed Willie's ship, like the skeleton here in the trailer is giving a lot of One-Eyed Willie's skeleton vibes. If they found his ship and then took the ship on an adventure to somewhere else, and that's where the actual series took place. So we'll break it all down. Of course, I'll be doing videos for it when it premieres later this year. It's coming December 3rd, so if you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all those episodes. Couple big connections to the other Star Wars series right now. For instance, The Mandalorian. This is meant to be connected to all the Ahsoka, the Mandalorian stuff that's happening in that part of the timeline. For instance, the Vane character is going to be one of the villains of the series.
Been a pleasure serving you, Captain. But it's time to part ways. Vane, you coward!
Remember, he survived The Mandalorian Season 3. He was part of Gorian Shard's crew. He survived because he ran off. Presumably, he runs off to this pirate base here and just continues pulling jobs on his own or tries to put a crew of his own together, and they become the villains of this series. Because it seems like one of the places that they take the ship to inadvertently is a pirate base. The series was created by John Watts, most people remember from the Spider-Man No Way Home trilogy. Also, Jon Favreau was a producer on the series. Dave Filoni helped with this, so that's why it's tangentially connected to the Mando part of the timeline. It just takes place in a different part of the main galaxy. There are a lot of theories about where they travel to during the events of the series. The trailer doesn't give you enough information about that. Most of the trailer footage takes place on the home planet that they come from, then they leave, they head to this pirate base, which still seems like it's in the main part of the galaxy. But I think part of the idea, based on some of the other trailer footage we got earlier this year that doesn't appear in this new shinier version of the trailer, is all these star charts in this ancient ship make it seem like they might spend some time in the unknown regions. There was a theory about that a long time ago. That hasn't been substantiated yet. Like, we haven't got enough footage to actually confirm any of that. It just seems like a large part of the series is them being lost, Voyager style. Like Star Trek Voyager was another reference that people made early on, where they get lost and they have to find their way home. The only reason you would need to do that is if you don't have star maps of where you are, and that just makes it sound like the unknown regions. The only other possibility is that they get stuck in the Peridia galaxy, but it seems like it's way, way harder to actually make it that far across to different galaxies, so I'm guessing that they're still inside the main galaxy here. Jude Law's character is called Jod Na Wood. They're just calling him a Force user in the official character description. They don't say a former Jedi Master or a Jedi Knight or Jedi Padawan. They just say a Force user, which is why I say he could be something a little bit darker, like a fallen Jedi. Based on his age, though, I think he'd have to have been a Padawan during Order 66 and just survived the Purge. No details on who his original master would have been. But he's actually pretty close to the same age as Mando in present day, just a little bit older. That means that Jude Law's character would have to have been around 14 or 15 during Order 66. Mando is meant to be around 13 years old during Order 66 and the Siege of Mandalore. Those happened in the same year, if it wasn't clear. Most traditional Jedi Padawans don't graduate to the rank of full Jedi Knight until their 20s. The exceptions to that, like people who speed through ranks much faster, would be like Anakin Skywalker, who started when he was older and progressed much faster because of his natural power in the Force and his talent. But it does seem like, based on the trailer footage, Jude Law's character hasn't been really using a lot of his Force abilities very actively, which is mostly the case for people that have been trying to hide the fact that they have Force sensitivity. Like when they're stuck in the cell and he Force pulls the keys to him, it's not a real clean pull like a traditional Jedi. It's kind of shaky, so it just seems like he's not super practiced right now, or he hasn't been using his abilities a lot. The boy here at the beginning of the trailer is named Wim. He's the one that actually finds that ancient Jedi ship. This girl is Fern. Her friend with the Geordie LaForge-style visor that allows her to see is called KB, and the baby Ortolan's name is Neil. We do know that Nick Frost is going to be the voice of the main droid here, SM-33. That's the designation of his droid, but that's also, it sounds like what they're going to call him during the series, SM-33. The actual Jedi ship's name is the Onyx Cinder, which does give it a darker feel, like that name goes pretty hard. Maybe it's from the High Republic era, like the ship itself just seems incredibly old. In the place where they find it buried in this hillside here, it seems like it would have taken it a long time to have been buried under the terrain like this. Like there's a lot of trees and foliage growing on top of this land, so it's been here for a very, very long time. Just starting at the beginning of the trailer footage and going through shot by shot though, we see Wim in his home in the suburbs of whatever this Outer Rim planet is. I'm guessing that it's in the Outer Rim somewhere just because it seems relatively normal. This is where we get to the Spielbergian aspects to it. A lot of Steven Spielberg's classic films take place with kids unattended in the suburbs, like the whole concept of kids running around on their own without parental supervision. Nowadays in the 2020s, that might seem kind of anachronistic, especially after all the pandemic stuff the last several years. Like, no, we don't want kids running around on their own. Bad things could happen to them. But it seems like Wim is giving a lot of Luke Skywalker energy being stuck on Tatooine. Like, he doesn't want to be stuck in this suburban planet here. Like, I want to go have some adventures. He also dreams of the Jedi, like you see him reading about Jedi on his little pad here. This school that they're attending, their school teacher is played by Carrie Condon, a lot of people might recognize. I'm not sure what this symbol is that's on all their jackets. It might just be the sponsor of this world, like if it's a corporate world in the corporate sector, or if it's just their principality, like wherever they actually come from. Normally when you see symbols on people's jackets in the Star Wars universe, you expect it to either be Empire or Rebellion or New Republic, because we're talking about the New Republic era here. Wim talks to his friend Neil, who has no idea why he would ever want to do anything exciting. We get a wider shot of their Star Wars suburbs, which just seem kind of funny, like suburbs inside the Star Wars universe, but I suppose on some planets they would have areas like this. Notice the Ithorian just casually walking down the sidewalk. Wim finds that buried Jedi ship at some point. When he says he thinks it's a lost Jedi temple, this is why I say I think he's obsessed with Jedi. Like he sees a buried ship and instantly thinks that it's a Jedi temple. Notice how enough time has gone by that the root system from above has grown through the bulkhead in the ship. That's how long the ship has been here. This just seems like footage of the ship itself getting ready to take off, breaking through that Earth. Not sure what race this dead person is, but the skeleton is giving lots of One-Eyed Willy vibes, like I said. Their skull looks pretty humanoid, but it looks like they might have been an attacker who was killed by the former owner of the ship in defense. Like the skeleton doesn't belong to the former owner of the ship itself. Then based on the progression of the footage, it seems like they're implying that they inadvertently set the ship off and they take off into hyperspace, jumping it to this pirate base. And this is all before they meet the Jude Law character. Like the little kids do this by themselves. They find the droid that's hooked into the ship, like I said, played by Nick Frost. It sounds like maybe he's hooked in as part of the circumstances for how the ship crashed in the first place, or maybe the droid plugged himself into the ship to help himself survive. Notice the rounded design of the cockpit here. It also kind of reminds you of the ship design in Ahsoka. This place might be that random pirate base that they accidentally jumped to. There's a little bit of footage here. This might be where they wind up in prison, finding Jude Law's character also in that prison. I think this is meant to be their ship crashing into this place here, like they walk out and see the wreckage here. This character, some people might recognize as Fuzzball from the Captain EO Michael Jackson co-production between Disney and Lucasfilm. Like George Lucas did a big Michael Jackson project. Way back in the day, Michael Jackson was a huge Star Wars stan. He even wanted to play Jar Jar Binks during the prequels. George Lucas wound up helping produce this whole Captain EO production for Disney. This just seems like them walking around that pirate base, like they find some Jawas here. Like this is still inside the main galaxy for the most part. It seems like they run into a bunch of random roguelike figures telling them how dangerous things are here. It looks like their ship gets caught in some kind of trash compactor here that's chewing the hell out of it. Some of these aliens do seem like they're pretty new. I didn't recognize them from the lore, like this owl alien. Seems a lot like a convor crossed with a porg. But the actual owl might verbalize with the normal basic speech, though. We get a shot of Nick Frost's droid SM-33 helping the kids pilot the ship. This Shistavin firing on them might be part of Vane's crew, like one of the pirates that's coming for the kids, trying to take the ship. This might be a completely different planet with this giant crab creature that they see, just because you see snow all around them here. The actual ship itself seems way bigger than the Millennium Falcon. This scene of the KB characters seeing the X-Wings fly overhead might be back on their home planet earlier in Episode 1, before they actually leave the planet on the ship. Then we get that scene of Jude Law's character rescuing them from their prison cell by force pulling the key through their prison bars. Here's the thing though, the little kid Wim is the one who says, "Oh my god, you're a Jedi," and Jude Law's character doesn't say anything, which is why I don't think that he used to be a Jedi. Otherwise he'd be like, I used to be a long time ago, or like I'm not anymore. Usually Jedi characters that survive the Purge, Obi-Wan Kenobi for instance, would speak about their former Jedi lives that way, like I'm not one anymore. Jude Law being kind of quiet about who he actually is, what he actually was, just means that it might have been something completely different for him. Even when Kanan on Star Wars Rebels was talking about his former life as a Jedi Padawan, like he was a legit Jedi Padawan before Order 66 happened, he still spoke about the Jedi with a great deal of reverence, even though there was a lot of regret and tragedy in there too. I'm kind of expecting a bigger twist with Jude Law's character, just because he typically plays really complicated characters. So you can let me know in the comments who you think his character really was. Like, was he just a basic Jedi Padawan who survived Order 66 and then has been hiding out across the Outer Rim trying to continue to survive? Like, he tried to survive all the Inquisitors, then he grew older eventually and just tried to use his skills to try and survive. Based on his appearance too, it doesn't seem like his character is doing so hot. So like maybe he's been living a life of crime, like he's been living as a pirate or as a scoundrel or something like that. Like that's the idea, is that he's the scoundrel character with the heart of gold who eventually comes to care for all these children. That's why I made the David Harbour Stranger Things reference, because he's a character who at one point was good, but then fell from grace and is sort of redeemed in trying to care for Eleven and a lot of the other kids. Like eventually he does redeem himself. So it sounds like it might be a similar path for Jude Law's character. They did not say how they plan on eventually crossing this series over for the Thrawn movie with Mando and Ahsoka, but at some point, I think some of these characters, maybe not everybody, but some of these characters will wind up in that Thrawn movie. The only problem with that is that was the plan a couple of years ago. They could have changed that plan at some point. So I think like at any given moment, anything is up for grabs, but I still think they want to keep Jude Law around for as long as possible if they can. The other big follow-up question is if any of these kids are going to wind up being force sensitive, because now on the modern shows, like during the Mando part of the timeline, you have all these force sensitive people showing up and younger people too. For instance, the idea that Jason Syndulla might be trained by Ezra at some point as a Jedi. If one of these kids winds up being force sensitive, maybe Jude Law's character, if he sticks around, will also help training them in the force too. So everybody just post all your theories and your questions in the comments below. We're going to get another trailer later this year that'll probably give us more of the actual story. There are a bunch more D23 trailers, a bunch more Marvel trailers, so I'm still working through a lot of that stuff. My voice has slowly been healing the last couple of days. Like I've been sick for a little while, but it's actually getting pretty better now. So everybody click here for that Mandalorian and Grogu movie trailer I've already done a video for, and click here for that Daredevil Born Again trailer. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.